thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We are excited to get down to this topic with today's webinar, which is, of course, talking about engaging your visitors, and not just engaging them. We're also going to look at how we can reach and integrate them once they've come to our church events. I am very excited today to have a special guest with us. Mr. Kuehn from Elexio is on hand as our guest expert on the subject of guest integration. And so we're going to have some time where Kyle and I will be discussing this topic. We've got some great pointers and strategy to lay out for you guys and give you guys a chance to also contribute towards. And I want to mention, if this is your first time at a Sharefaith Academy webinar, this is a time where we like to talk to you guys and have a conversation about these things. If you look below the video player, you should be able to see a chat box where you can go ahead and enter in anything. Feel free to just say hi, pop in there, let us know you guys are tuning in from. Everything there, you can just enter your first name if you want to sign up that way. You can connect with Facebook or Twitter. None of that information posts to your social media though, so don't worry about that. I know some people might have some concerns there, but it's just for the sake of chatting with us here today. And again, we're very excited. I'd like to allow Kyle to just introduce himself for a second. Kyle?
Hey there, Zach. Coming in loud and clear, man. I'm super honored to be able to be a part of this webinar for Sharefaith Academy and talk to you about Elexio and some of our tools and how they apply to visitor engagement for church events. So excited for today's presentation.
Definitely. We're very excited. And just so you guys know, we're going to go through and Kyle and I are just going to discuss these things from a practical standpoint on how churches can engage their communities effectively. And we're going to have a presentation where we'll discuss those things. And then at the end of that presentation, we want to make sure to give you guys some resources to look into both through Sharefaith and Elexio. And we'll do some demonstration on how that stuff works. So be sure to stick around to learn more about that. But whether or not you guys are using these resources, ultimately our goal here is to help equip the church with practical strategy and tips to be able to reach and engage our local communities. So without further ado, I'm going to pray and then we'll go ahead and get started. Father God, we thank you so much for this time. We thank you for the opportunities that you lay before us, that we can reach people and be a part of your salvation plan, working for the kingdom, Lord. God, I ask that you would just use us mightily, whatever path we take, whatever tools we use, knowing that ultimately everything we do is for your glory. God, we ask these things and we ask that you would bless this time, that all would go smoothly from a technical standpoint, but also, Lord, that this discussion would just be led by your Spirit. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So let's go ahead and the first thing I want to talk about, because we are talking about events here, so I wanted to just kind of discuss that for a second. What's so special about events with the church? And Kyle, let me start first just by saying, with events, I think this is such a crucial avenue that churches need to make use of in terms of reaching their communities. If you think about it, less and less people are now coming to church services, necessarily looking for a church, but maybe they're not sure if they're really wanting to get engaged with a church, but they're going to be more open to coming to a community activity or some type of activity outside of a church. And this is a great opportunity to witness to those people. And so when you have something like this with going on events, see this as an opportunity where not only are you looking to maybe provide a fun and safe time for people who are already within your church, but ultimately as a time that you want to be a witness to the community, that you want to show them Jesus outside of the church walls.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, Zach. And really, what you're providing is an opportunity for common ground where people can experience the love of Jesus outside the church walls. So when you're having events in the community and allowing people to be connected with you, allowing people to be served by you and to be loved by you, it creates an environment where they can experience everything that we have at church on Sunday morning outside of that Sunday morning time frame.
Absolutely. Yeah, and definitely, like you're saying, it's something where people can witness those things outside of church. And when you think about it, it puts you into maybe a bit of a more natural element where they can kind of get to know the people behind the situation. They don't come in and feel like it's just a religion, but they get to actually witness a community, a family of believers. So
absolutely.
As we're going about this, the thing that we want to think of, we're going to talk about this from the very beginning stages on through to the end and follow-up. So the first thing I wanted to bring up is putting together your strategy. And so with the strategy in mind, thinking about these questions in particular. Let me see here. First of all, thinking, how are you going to promote the event? How are you going to host the event? And how are you going to follow up after the event? So, first question, go back to my slides here. Promoting your services. How are you going to promote? So let's talk about this from promoting in your services. So this is a way where we can talk to the people who are already in our churches, right? The people, or maybe who are visiting our churches for the first time in a service. And so promoting these events in our services, there's a few different ways that we can do it. One of them would be during your church announcements. And so this would be a time where somebody comes up in front from the stage or from wherever your pastor normally preaches at, where everybody can see clearly and hear clearly, and letting them know about things from there. Of course, a very popular time. I'm sure most, if not everybody here, is already doing something like that when they want to get events out. But it's important to make sure that you give plenty of time for people so they have a heads up on this. Typically, I recommend once you're at the stage where you're ready to start promoting your church events, about at least 6 weeks in advance before the event, just so and to continue doing so in the services leading up to the event, because you will have people who are going to miss a couple Sundays here and there, or they're going to be new visitors who come in after that first promotion. So you just want to make sure that you are catching everyone as they come in. And then, apart from just your general announcements, also think of the printable resources that you're providing. Your bulletin, of course, is a major one. Most, if not everyone here, I'm assuming, is also has some form of bulletin in their churches. And so with that, again, having that available, I would say around the same timeline, at least about 6 weeks in advance before the event is actually happening. So people have something there, and just providing a little blurb about what this event is exactly. You can say you're having a harvest festival example, but then explaining what does that entail. Are there specific age groups that should come or maybe shouldn't? Or is there anything going on that people might need to bring? Is there a potluck that people might need to sign up for? Is there a is there a costume dress code? Things like that. You can put little bits of information about onto your bulletin so that people can have a little more detail. And of course, the location and times being crucial things as well. And then on top of bulletins, handouts, invitations, making sure that it's not just about the people who are there, but give them opportunity to also share this information with others. And then also, and Kyle also too, I don't want to run over you. If there's anything, I know I've got some points here, but if there's anything you want to jump in at, feel free. I want to make sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Zach. Yeah, you're doing great. I think it's really important to remember just how key a promotion strategy is for your events. People need time to prepare. People need time to get excited. They need time to schedule. I love that you're starting off 6 weeks prior to the event with announcements and bulletins. I think that's the perfect time. You don't want to do 6 months prior because that's so far out. I'm not going to put it on my calendar. But you don't want to do 2 days before because then I've already scheduled my week. I think 6 weeks is a great time to start putting that out in your announcements and in your bulletins. And then with handouts and invitations 3 weeks before, that's perfect time as well. That's going to give me an opportunity to tell my neighbor about the event upcoming, tell my coworkers, and have something in hand that I can give them with event details. So I think that's great.
And definitely. And the reason I have handouts listed separately too is because obviously you can put something in the bulletin, and after a while, things that are on the bulletin over and over again become rhetoric. It's just something that you see and you don't really register. But if there's a unique handout that you can provide that applies to that specific event, it'll make it stand out more. And I see this a lot of times with churches where you'll go to a service and all of a sudden this event that they've been talking about, there's a single card or graphic of some kind they put on in addition to the bulletin, just as something as it's kind of a red flag that comes up like, oh right, that's getting closer. And so it's still within the window, I'd say at about 3 weeks beforehand, like you said, Kyle, like where there's still time that people can go, oh, that's right, I wanted to be a part of that. I still have time to plan and get ready and make sure that my time is free at that point. So that's a huge one. And then having, during the announcement sides too, having slides available. if you're utilizing slides or graphics, you don't necessarily need those right at the first announcement, but again, providing those as it gets closer is another way where it's kind of a special feature either on your projectors or your screens, however you have that set up in your sanctuary, or when somebody is reminding you about that event, all of a sudden there's a visual attached to it, which just helps it register even more, like, oh, that's right, that's going on, and those are the times that it's going to be taking place. So that's a great thing to make use of as well. Make use of your visuals, and not just slides, but also videos. Some churches can be scared sometimes of getting into the video realm, like, oh gosh, I don't know how to put one together. We're so blessed that we live in a time now where the technology is available to us. You could even use an iPhone to get a video if you don't have access to anything better as far as cameras go, which is fine. And so you can make a video that just talks about it. Just to share something real quick on a strategy side, I saw a great, I guess you would call it a seminar that someone was doing on talking about teasing events in the church. And a great example or suggestion that they had was talking about how you look at companies like Hollywood. And Hollywood that is going through and making sure that they tease the heck out of these videos that are going to be released here, maybe a year from now. And so obviously we're not going to that level, but we can think about, okay, in the initial conversation, we're bringing this up. If we want to have a small teaser video, it's something that catches the attention, doesn't give out too much information yet. It's more just to get us excited and thinking about it. And then as you get closer, having a little bit more involved with that. So initially you could just have something that comes up and maybe just features a scene or an interview with someone who's involved with whatever the event is that's coming up. And they can just say something real brief about what it is, or just kind of give you a little hint as to what it is. You can be dramatic and even like set up a little skit or scene if you wanted to do something like that. And then as it gets closer, having something that's a little bit more fleshed out and detailed and has more for you to be like, okay, yes, I want to go check this out. So that may not be for everyone, but that's just a fun idea that I saw someone mention that churches are actually using.
Yeah, great point. And like you said, you do not need a lot of resources to make a great teaser video for events. I'm a sucker for a great video teaser. And at my church, we do Camp Rock, and our worship pastor created just a series of fun teaser videos that we would see every week, a little 30-second video where him and the kids had a bunch of wigs on and they were playing different instruments and doing little skits. And they were really short 30-second videos. There's not a lot of prop quality or editing quality, but they were just so fun, and they got everyone excited for the upcoming event.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. I think sometimes we get scared that we can't do something that looks like it has a $300 million budget behind it, and it doesn't need to. It's just something where if we can do something fun, something that catches attention and really shares the message of what you want to have this event be about, I think that's all you need to really have a good teaser video put together. As Absolutely. We're talking about this, I'm just thinking in my mind like back to when Star Wars Episode 7 was coming out. It was the first Star Wars movie in forever, and we're all so excited. And I just remember that first teaser they launched didn't show you hardly anything. It was just like, okay, there's a scene of a desert and one of the big ships in the back and da-da-da, and like 10 seconds later, there goes the music, Millennium Falcon comes flying out, and you're just like, sold, going. I have no objection. I will be there. So, you don't have to do anything too crazy for that first one. But yeah, so those are just fun ideas that churches can use, no matter what kind of budget that you're on. So now the next thing that we want to move into, so we're talking about promoting in our services, ways that you can get your church family engaged. And you have to think also too, though, we do live in a digital age. So the next thing I want to bring up is talking about that digital promotion aspect. And there's so much that we can do here. And again, we're going to show you guys, we're going to discuss these things. We're going to talk about some different things that you can do. And then we're going to show you guys some examples here after our presentation before this webinar is over, so you can see just how a church would be able to put something like these together. So the first thing that I want to talk about on the digital promotion side is going to be the church website. The church's website is going to be really, you have to think of your website as kind of a hub for all of your information online, where people would ideally want to come to be able to learn anything about your church and learn what's happening at your church. So the church website definitely needs to be a big one. And with the website, there's different aspects that you can really do to pump up some events. One of the things would be the graphics that you're using on your website. Incorporating different banners or backgrounds, having some festive graphics that are on there, being that we're going into this festive holiday season, and dressing up your website to really reflect the excitement that you have around these events going on at your church. Also, you should be thinking about how you can allow people to take action while they're on your website. A great way to do this is if you have forms available on your site. So you can kind of have people RSVP to the events or register. If you have anything where you're going to need somebody to pay to register, like if it's for a special dinner event or maybe something that would be a ticket, or if you have it where people can purchase a shirt or something like that that's special for this event, whatever the case may be, having a form on your website is just a great way to make that accessible for people, whether or not they're making it on Sundays to the services. And then, I would even say it would be great to go so far as to have a dedicated page, like a landing page essentially, where people come to, they learn all about the event, and they can see different things on here. It'd be great to have stuff like a recap of a previous time that you did this event, if it's something that you hold on a regular basis, like if you hold it once a year or anything like that. It's great to have, like we were just talking about, doing a video or something that shows what you guys had last year, or maybe having a few photos on there, or maybe somebody's testimony from how it was last year. And then also some special things to keep on there would be like a map to the event, especially if it's not perhaps at your church, just so people know like where they can get to the location at, and having contact information too. So if people do have questions about it or would like to learn more and they don't see everything that they are necessarily looking for on that page, then they can reach out to your team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the idea of a landing page for the event, especially if it's a large event. If this is an event that you host once a year and it gets a really great attendance, I mean, having a landing page, a separate URL or a separate location where you can store all that information in one place is really great. One of the other things that I've seen churches do that I just love is having a slide rotator, like a picture slide on your home screen that's just cycling through the different events. And I can click on the picture to get more information about that event. I think that's just a great way. It's attracting, it's popping when I come to the site. I can see it there. I don't have to dig and look for events through your website. So definitely would encourage either a landing page or some type of slider or rotator on your home screen, cycling through the different things that you want to promote. From an event standpoint. And then obviously the registration forms, when people see your event online, that's the time for them to express interest. The more you can capitalize on that opportunity, when they're in thinking about the event, hey, this event looks great. Me and my wife and our kids, we have off that day. I'd really love to go to that. If I have a form and I can sign up right then, I mean, that is a home run.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. If you can do anything to make it so that someone can go ahead and make a commitment to attend right at that point, or do something to just let you know that they're interested, always have those opportunities available for them. So the church website is perfect for that. Apart from the church website, if you don't mind, Kyle, I want to go ahead and transition to our next thing we were going to discuss, which is, of course, if we're talking about digital promotion these days, social media. So with social media, I would say the biggest thing that we're going to mention about is talking about Facebook. If you want to talk about places that people are actually going, and especially things related to like what we're discussing with events, Facebook right now seems to be just the best outfitted for being able to promote those kinds of things from your church. And so I wanted to bring up a few things that churches should keep in mind with any type of social media promotion. First of all, we are so used to, I think, thinking of social media as this free form of advertisement. And once upon a time, I would say that's a pretty fair assessment. Nowadays, though, when we look at how much Facebook has changed their algorithm to where organic traffic is about 6% of what it used to be. in terms of getting organic notices on your posts. So like that, what that means is like if you post something just from your page without putting any money behind it, maybe about 6% of the people who like your page will actually see it on their timeline. And part of that is their efforts to reduce the amount of companies kind of overwhelming people's timeline. And part of it is also because they want people to pay for that advertisement that they're essentially giving you on their platform. So honestly, churches need to be thinking about this as they are promoting things on social media, that they should set aside a budget for ads to be taking place on those platforms, whether that's Facebook, whether that's Instagram, whether that's Twitter, whatever your church is finding the most success through. But I would say Facebook is probably the largest one that churches are using, and that overall that we see people using and having success with, especially in relation to this topic that we're having here. And then on top of that, when you're looking at how you're budgeting your ads, Facebook's very helpful in that you can actually choose how you want to go about it. Do you want to go based on, do you just want to connect to people who like your page, maybe their friends? Are you looking to reach a specific like regional area? And I would say, like, especially since we're talking about probably most cases talking local events, it's good to simply target those people who are in your local demographic. Now, Facebook is you can whittle it down to where you can choose by hobbies and interests and all that stuff, and I would leave it to you to decide how you would want to do that based on your event. But ultimately, the biggest thing I would say is just mainly making sure that all the money that you're putting into that is going right back towards people who would actually have a chance of coming to your events, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah, Zach, that's a great point. So I dabbled in Facebook ads and promoting on Facebook. And one of the things that I forgot was to target a local demographic. And I had people expressing interest in an event who lived in 4 states away or even in other countries. So you really want to make sure that you key in on that piece of targeting any ads that you're spending on social media to your local demographic, and not just that, you can also target by interest and by age groups and by gender. So there's a lot of promise there that you can do when you're targeting.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, like you said, if it doesn't really help much if you're targeting for, say, you're planning to have a Christmas event and somebody in Germany is checking it, like, oh yeah, check out, they are having the Christmas event over there at church, about 3,000 miles away from here, or however many kilometers that would be. So. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
That was so on point. That was the best German accent I've heard in a long time.
Oh, danke schön. So, okay, I'm sorry. I'll go on a tangent if you let me. No, but with social media, it's such a powerful tool today. I don't think anybody's going to deny that. But we have to understand too, like, it's something that we've taken for granted, just kind of assuming like just by having social media and simply by using it without actually investing into it, that somehow people will see what our efforts and what we're trying to get through on there. So I just want to encourage you, especially in these times leading up towards Christmas and other holidays that are big times for the church, be sure to take that time to budget towards that stuff. Make sure that you are, churches nowadays understand how effective and how powerful social media marketing can be. But we have to back that up with real budgets and figures to say, like, yes, this is something that's important to us and we want to see fruit from it. So we have to be investing into it for that to happen. And, other things to do just to kind of increase that organic reach is talking to your church about these things too, saying like, hey, be sure that you're following us on these platforms. Be sure that you're engaging with these posts and sharing this information. Check in when you come into events or when you come to our church. These are just ways that they kind of broadcast their connection with the church and ultimately broadcast the church to their friends who they may not necessarily be thinking about or don't realize, can benefit and see these things as well.
That's a great point.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah, and something just to add to that, a great point. People don't realize that just how much they can help expand your reach when they engage with your posts. If someone likes something you posted on Facebook, or if somebody shares that, I mean, that's going to allow 30 people that they know to see that activity come up. So that's just going to be, it's really huge. It doesn't cost anything. So as clear and as strategic as you can be with your communication to your congregation to encourage them that you are helping us with our events, with building and serving our community by engaging with us on social media as well.
Definitely, definitely. And and part of that social media engagement too, there's other things that you can do with it. I know we talked about doing, Kyle, you and I, we had talked about this, how you can create like Facebook groups. So you want to do something that's just specifically towards people who are volunteers or who are involved with it. So staff and volunteers that are going to be taking part in these events. It's great to get them involved on a Facebook group, or even just in general, your volunteers and those who are actively involved with helping out at your church for these things. Having a group that's going on, and just because, again, that's another way that's a much more effective way of reaching those people directly through social media. And it's a great way where you can say like, hey everyone, this is what we're thinking. We'd like to get feedback on it, or we'd like to get people starting to sign up for it. And so it's one way that you can broadcast that as well outside of services.
Absolutely. And you can do polls. I mean, it is so effective. Zach, you and I have both been on the receiving end of that long email thread where everyone keeps hitting reply all, and you're 30 emails deep, and you lost track of the information where the conversation's gone. I mean, so having resources like that just allows you to be a lot more effective with your communication. And Facebook groups for volunteers. I've been a part of a couple of those, and it's been really helpful.
And definitely too, Facebook events. We're talking about events. Facebook events, I love what they've done recently. If anybody's noticed with what Facebook is doing to really broadcast those even more so. When you think about it, the weekend's coming and you check your Facebook on Friday and you get this notification. It says like, hey, your mom, your dad, your cousin, your Aunt Susan, your dog's best friend, everybody, blah, 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 is interested in going to these events this weekend. And so all of a sudden I'm being exposed to events that nothing related to what I'm following necessarily, other than the fact that my friends are attending these things, or the fact that I may have never seen it otherwise without it. So that's something that is actually becoming more and more helpful for people who are trying to get their events out there on there.
Yeah, helps with the momentum too. If I see 7 people I know and they've checked in or they've expressed interest in an event, I'm thinking to myself, "Whoa, did I not get noticed about this? I need to check this out."
Right,
and make sure that I'm going too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, for sure. All right, well let's go ahead and move on to the next thing, which if you look at it on a timeline aspect, it's going to feel like we're taking a step backwards to the caveman days of digital promotion. But the reality is, even with social media, this is still the king of digital communication. And that, of course, being electronic mail, or as the kids call it these days, email. Sorry, I don't know why I wrote it like that. I just wanted to. So, email. Email communications are still a vital part of the promotional aspect of what churches are doing to get the word out about anything that's happening. And so with email, there's a few major things that you need to think about when it comes down to it. Time, your frequency, how often you're sending, and the content itself. And so let's look at time first. With time, what I'm talking about is it's important to kind of get a formula down as far as what time of day is the best time for your emails to be sent, and what day of the week. Now, there's different ways that you could do this, of course, depending on how you send email. We definitely recommend using a system or services that can actually track that stuff for you. And there's great ones out there, like I know there's MailChimp, which is a very popular platform for email services. There's Constant Contact. And there's plenty of others, too, that you can look into. Those are a couple of real popular ones, though. And the great things about these is they can tell you more about how your email is read, how people are engaging with it, and they can give you pointers on stuff to show, like, okay, we see that more often than not, it seems like when we send an email on these days at this time, it seems to be getting a lot more people reading it than if we did it this way. And so those are helpful things to help you plan on how you're going to promote things through email. And then likewise with frequency. Now there's a couple things with frequency. Kyle, why don't you go ahead, and I know you and I were talking about this. I want to give this one to you. You can talk about how often we should be sending emails out.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, just to piggyback off that with time of day and day of week, you want to be wise when you're sending your communications so that it can be most fruitful. So if you're sending an email Friday at midnight, nobody's reading that email, no one's opening that email. It's going to get lost in translation. So there's a lot of research that says people are keen to opening emails Tuesday in the morning. So, if you Google search a lot of that data, you can get some of that research and statistics on when is the proper times to email. But just as important as when is the frequency of how much you email people. You don't want to email them so often and be so overzealous that they're getting spammed left and right. Once someone spams you on their email, it's done. You're gone. You've been taken off the ability. You've been taken off their list and the ability to send them communications through such an important channel. So you do want to make sure that you're not flooding people's emails with communications. And then when you're emailing, you want to have a strategy. And some of those services you mentioned before, like MailChimp or Constant Contact, they have automation built in where you can schedule the emails of when they go out. Church management systems, like you'll hear about at the end of this presentation today, church management systems like Elexio have the ability to schedule out emails and put them into a pattern. So you want to make sure you have a pattern of communication, and you're setting up emails that are automatically being sent at appropriate times. So once a week, leading up to the event, or once every couple of weeks leading up to the event. And then right before the event, you can feel free to get a little bit more proactive, maybe email the week of the event, and then an email 2 nights before the event, and then an email the morning of the event. Like, I think that would be appropriate to be a little overzealous, maybe at the week of the event, but leading up into that, you really want to make sure that you're spacing out your emails appropriately.
Definitely. And I think the main takeaways that our folks who are watching this can listen to and think about, we don't want to be too over the top with the communications where we're spamming the people, like you're saying, but we're also not saying just to do one and done. Ultimately, you do need to find that balance as far as how well people receive it when you do make sure that you are keeping it focused around the time of the event. But still giving them multiple opportunities to see these reminders, because the reality is, people will see an email, and I mean, we do get a lot of them, so there's a chance that we're going to accidentally kind of glance over these ones without really registering what it's saying at first. But then as it gets closer to the date and we're seeing it pop up more and more often, we go, oh, that's right, that's what's happening this week. And so it's just a thing to connect with people and kind of cut through that noise a little bit more aggressively, like you're saying, towards the end. Usually I would say in most cases, if you plan to have anywhere between like 3 to 6 communications through the process, and 6 might be more on the heavy side, and you can try out. But I know, like, for example, people who came to this webinar, you probably saw we sent out an email that we talked about it at first. And then as we got closer, we sent out a few more to you. And you guys had a couple come in today just because we see that people are seeing those last minute reminders. And that's a huge difference for people going, oh, that's right, I'm going to go do that right now. And so that same philosophy works with everything. And you can look at how you are putting that stuff together in terms of communicating things in advance enough for when people actually need to come and show up to something, they need a little bit more heads up versus just like what we're doing now where they just need to tune in online.
Absolutely.
But other things, talking about those scheduling and those benefits that those services can have. One of the things I wanted to point out is you can do automated workflows with those too, where you can set up a thing where, for example, if you say, hey, send this email out, you can send out an email at your own time. And then based on whether somebody opens this email or not, or maybe they click on something on the email or not, if that doesn't happen, then wait this long and send another one. Or if it does happen, then don't trigger that event to happen. So there's things you can do to automate the process, and that's all stuff that works and integrates too with like what Kyle's going to show us here later towards the end of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then Zach, just to add on that, I'm gonna go ahead and jump on this third point here. So we talked about time, we talked about frequency, both super important when you're sending it, how often you're sending it, but what you're sending, the content of what you're sending in your email is hugely important, because people are not going to respond to the same thing over and over again. You want to make sure, and kind of the slogan is here is, if you're not saying something new, you're not saying anything at all. And so you want to make sure that what you're saying is something new, it's something exciting. You're giving bits and pieces of information. You're giving breadcrumbs to encourage interest and to make people feel like they're getting something new. Even the Lord says, sing unto me a new song. We love new, we want new. So we want to make sure that our content is fresh. That we're not just using the same email template every time. I know having an email template is really convenient. It's less work on your end. I know you have a million things to do, but as much as you can, producing new content and not sending the same email over and over again, it's really going to pay off.
Definitely. And honestly, we could go on and on about email. There's so much behind how you can do email communications effectively, and let's save that for another webinar. But
absolutely,
in the meantime, I'm going to move on to the thing that I would say nowadays is perhaps, in my perspective at least, the only thing that really goes toe-to-toe with email as one of the most effective digital promotion options available right now, and that is text messaging. And text messaging is something where over time it has become more and more plausible for churches to start using text messaging systems. And I can tell you it's something where we recognize, like our phones, right? We have our phones with us all the time. The average person spends about 3 hours a day on their phone. And lately, if you're an iPhone user, you got that update where it tells you how much screen time you had each week. And I don't want to admit exactly what that told me. I spend of my time every day on my phone because it's really embarrassing. I'll just say I'm above average. Yay. So, yeah. So, something I didn't want to be above average on. But text messaging is something that's become such a powerful tool as well for churches. It's a great way to share communications that are quick, provide something just like a quick rundown of what's going to happen, maybe a reminder about the event as well. And so it's another great avenue that you can use. And again, the same things apply like we talked about with email. Time, frequency, content, all of those matter in text messaging. Some great ways that you can use this is you can send something out like a countdown reminder. For example, if it's a couple days beforehand, you can say, hey, 48 hours until the event starts, and then the next day, just 24 hours to go, and the next day, hey, 6 hours, we'll see you there. And maybe you don't want to necessarily go to that level with it, but I know it has been, for at least in my experience at my church, we do use text messaging communications for our events, and it's great because I've gotten notice that says like, hey, this is the time that the event's happening. Just a reminder, we will have childcare with Sunday school teachers there. So you can come check them in starting at this time. And like, that's all great information. Doesn't take a lot to say, can come through in just a simple text message, but it gives me everything I need to know so that way I can make it.
Absolutely, yeah. And I don't know, Zach, do you guys have something called Sweet Frog where you're from?
I don't know how it is in your region, but we do not eat frogs.
Okay, so Sweet Frog is like the hotspot frozen yogurt place in our area.
Okay.
And I get a text message every day when there's like a Sweet Frog special, or anytime that they're having like a buy one get one event. Like, I get just a quick text message letting me know that, hey, tomorrow come in from noon to 5 and we have this special. And it's just so effective. I can't tell you how much frozen yogurt I've eaten as a result of these Sweet Frog text messages. It really just is an effective tool of quick communication, especially time-sensitive information. Text messaging is just really great. So when you're talking about a countdown reminder for church events, I think that's just a really effective tool, reminding people, hey, you got a week until this event, and they're getting a text message wherever they are, because the phone is with you wherever you are. So it's the only form of communication where you're guaranteed to reach them where they're at. Email, they have to be at a computer, or they can see that from their phone, but they're usually not getting some kind of buzz or some kind of notification that they received an email. The text is notifying them right away. So it's just a really effective way of communication. And you can also do you can link in you can link in text messages. So you can link to videos, you can link to forms. There's just a lot of options that open up with text.
Awesome. Well, hey, I want to make sure we move along through this because I want to give us enough time to see these things in action. But I also want to make sure we cover all these points too, because we're just talking about the reaching part. We're still talking about promotion and how you can remind people about it as it gets closer. But then ultimately, there's going to be other parts that we need to look at too. The next part that we need to look at is how do we engage our visitors when they come? So the first thing that we want to talk about is the welcoming aspect. When somebody arrives, what is their experience like? Or like I have here on this slide, roll out the welcome wagon. So, when you provide an experience for people to come and get to see what your church is all about, how do you see that from start to finish from that event, that those people are given attention, that they are getting to see, exactly what the heart of your church is while they're there, and then ultimately, how can you try to do your best to set up an opportunity to see them again? And so with the first part, let's talk about the welcoming thing. The first thing that we want to maybe suggest is having a welcome station at an event. If you're having some kind of event at the park or at your church or at some public location and you have the opportunity to provide kind of an area where somebody can be there to welcome people, to answer questions, to provide handouts and resources about the event or about your church, that's a great thing to have. Also, you can do other things. You can incorporate technology into that. So we can have a check-in station with a kiosk. This can be great if you're, like the example I gave, where they're going to have childcare available. So you can allow people to come, check their kids in, and see what that experience is like, especially if you use that in your churches as well. And that's a great way, too, where it captures information that you can follow up and thank them for coming later. We'll get more to that in a bit. And I'm just so you guys know, I'm pausing just so I make sure if Kyle wants to get a word in, I'm not going to run right over him. So.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I don't want to spend too much time, on the point there, and you want to be mindful of time here. But you're right. The engagement, the welcome resources is a huge deal. When I show up to an event, I love it when there's a table or there's somewhere I can go and I know that I'm at the starting point of the event. I've not entered through the side door. I've not come in through the back door. I'm not out of line or out of order. I like knowing that I am being welcomed. I'm given the information I need so that I can fully participate in this event. So being able to have a connection card for people to fill out and submit additional information. When we're talking about promotion, there's two ideas here. So you want to collect as much information from people so that you can use that information to serve them, right? So contact information about, just themselves and their location. And so if you can, it's always best to collect as much information as you can before people get to the event, using forms and things like that. But once they're at the event, connection cards, here's, you put down a prayer request, or, put down your contact information or what things you're interested in. Or like you said, you can have electronic check-in kiosk where people can check in electronically, and that's recording all that information for you. It takes out that additional step for your admins of having to record all that information into the computer. It kind of cuts out that step while still allowing the people who are filling out the information to have a quick process and get into the event.
Amen for anything that cuts down paperwork.
That's right. That's right.
And so just run through these next things real quick because we are getting real close to the end of our time. I want to make sure we have some time here at the end. So the other things to think about during these events, what is the message that you're wanting to send there? How are people seeing the heart of your church, like we talked about? How are people seeing Jesus during this time? The people who are connected with your church, thinking about how you're appointing the right staff and volunteers for the positions that are there. Think about this. If you have someone who is a volunteer who shows that they have a gift of hospitality and they love taking care of people, like those are great opportunities to get them involved. And it can even be with your youth, your teenagers. I've been a youth pastor for years, and I find that a lot of the kids have that desire to want to serve and want to grow. And so these are great opportunities to give them where they can contribute and help out in these events and get to see a more practical ministry hands-on like that. But also then when it's all said and done, making sure to do the simple things that you might overlook. Making sure to thank everyone for coming, thanking the volunteers and staff. Maybe even giving some time just to recognize them during that point, so that people can see who's involved with the church and how they're helping. I know I've been at churches where that's been, for me, just a really powerful witnessing experience when I go to a church and I see so many people in the church who are rallied around helping and seeing that these things at the church are taking place. So that's a great thing there. And then making sure that you provide a way to invite visitors to come back, of course. The idea here is we don't want to just have a one and done instance with these people, but we want to develop a relationship and we want to develop connection with these people, understanding that our goal is we want to see them come to a relationship with Christ, a saving relationship with Christ, and hopefully get plugged in at your church or at least somewhere where they can grow into a disciple of Jesus.
Absolutely. Amen.
And then the last part we'll talk about here before we get into showing you guys some of these things more hands-on is the integration aspect. So I talk about that, following up with people and then having that integration with them afterwards. So like Kyle is saying and what we'll show you here, doing things to send follow-ups to people so that you are continuing that conversation. Don't look at this as a simple exchange, just like, hey, we're hosting this event, great you could make it, thanks for coming, maybe hopefully see you again next time. But pursuing that and saying like, hey, if we are doing stuff ahead of time like we should be, where we're planning to capture information from people who are interested coming and they're actually here, then we should have a strategy of how we're going to follow up with them. And so some ways we can do that, of course, is through simple communications like email or text messaging. But even going further, you can do things where if you've had some people there who you really felt you made a strong connection with, they seemed really interested in the church and the community that you had, maybe even planning a visit at home to talk to them more about it, or have some time to do a Bible study with them or something. And then you could even send a gift or care package. So putting that in terms of your event budget as well, like how are we going to follow up and just send something as a bigger way of saying thank you besides just a simple thank you message. And then having an ongoing plan for communication. Even don't stop there. Still try to reach out. Still let them know that you care, that you noticed that they were there, that you want them to see and be a part of the community at your church. And then last thing before we switch over from this, think about this too though. When you are setting up these communications and you have these plans, when does someone, now ideally this happens, when does someone transition from just being that visitor for that event to being an actual regular attendee or even a member of your church? And do your communications reflect that transition? Meaning if you have emails going out to people saying that these were people who were visitors, we just want to keep letting them know about other opportunities to visit us. Well, if they're already doing that, we don't need to keep bombarding them in email with those things. So just some stuff to keep in mind and cleaning up your process as you go and keeping track of that information as best you can so that you are not doing that to those people. So last thing I want to talk about, I know, we're almost done here. Last thing I want to talk about when it's all said and done and getting the next steps to your visitors is a SWOT analysis. So for those who were able to make it to one of our previous webinars, we talked about this, but this is also something that definitely applies here as well. A SWOT analysis is essentially looking at how did it go when you look at your whole experience, going from the strategizing process and the planning process all the way through to seeing it to the end and your follow-up with those people who made it. So SWOT is SWOT, and it stands for these things. The first thing is the S stands for strength. And so this is an opportunity to have these meetings with your team, with those who were involved with these things, and discuss what you felt went really well with this and what are strengths that you felt came through together. So you can reflect on the wins, the good things that you saw that came through this. The second part, though, is the contrast of that and looking at the weaknesses. What were things that could have been done better, or maybe were part of the event that didn't need to be there or didn't really contribute to the overall success of your goal. Then for O, it's opportunity. Where are the opportunities that you can improve for next time? And then lastly, threats. And these are things that are outside of your control. Perhaps this could be a change of venue if the one you used isn't going to be available next time around. Maybe it's something where you could be looking at budgeting for next time you plan to do something like this and it's not going to be as practical. So there are things that you want to look at. What are you going to have to be prepared for in case you have to make adjustments on the fly for those things? All right, so I went through that pretty quick, but I want to make sure that we have some time here. Kyle and I are going to show you guys just some examples of what you can do. And you guys probably see my screen now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to show through some of these things and just kind of to just mention, we covered a lot of material today.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
There's a lot of information, and it can be really overwhelming for a lot of churches. For some people, this is going to be really 101, just, reiterating things they already know. For others, this is going to seem like a huge mountain to climb. What you really want to focus on at your ministry is not so much what are the big things that I need to change and try to implement, but what are the small things that I can accomplish? What are the small things our team can change and do better, which is going to produce a more collective and overall positive result? And I think when you do that SWOT analysis, like you described, you're going to find a lot of small things you can tweak that are going to yield great dividends when it talks about efficiency. When you're talking about being efficient and strategic and clear with your communications and your event strategy.
And I'm not sure. I'm guessing myself now. I think that you guys probably see. There you go. I think I've got it now, so you guys should see my screen that actually has the window. You're probably checking out an awesome football background because I'm a big football fan. But here we go. So you guys should be able to see my screen now. Tim, good there? All right, got a thumbs up from Tim. Perfect. Okay, so here in the closing minutes, we just wanted to show you guys an example of how you can set up these communication workflows for people who would be interested in attending these events. So we're starting from a church website. So this is just a sample site that I have set up using the Sharefaith church website system here. And Kyle was kind enough to send me the code for this form. So I've just popped it right into place. Very simple to do. There's just a box to put in any code if you need to embed something. And so you'll see that we have this form for a awesome Christmas Carol flash mob that our church is planning, hypothetically speaking. So going through this form, we'll answer all these questions, and I'll just do this now so you can see how this works in real life. So I'm going to go ahead and put my information here.
Yeah, and while you're filling out that form, Zach, the reason I chose Christmas Carol Flash Mob is because I saw a video on YouTube of a church that did a Christmas flash mob at the mall, and it was just so hilarious, and I've always wanted to be a part of a singing flash mob. Oh man, it's on my bucket list.
I'm looking at these, so I don't know what my range is, so I'm going to put I'm not sure. But, I love these choices. I'm just going to say I'm beautifully and wonderfully made. So angelic is going to be my singer status. So I'll submit that. And so I get this cool little note here. It says, thank you, you've submitted this. And this actually is set up so it's going to redirect me to a video that you have, which is your flash mob Christmas video after it goes past this commercial on YouTube. Oops. There we go. And so that way, so the idea here is like, this would be a great opportunity. You could say like, hey, we did something like this last year. And so you've got a video here showing an example of what that looked like and everybody's reactions, which is priceless.
Absolutely, yeah. So what's happening here is just to kind of take away some of the distractions and really simplify what's happened here is that you've created a form using a piece of software. So in this instance, we're using Elexio Community Database, and you've created a form that you can place on your website, that you can send out via text, that you can send out via email. It's a fully flexible electronic form that you've built, and now you've collected information. You've allowed the user to enter that information at their convenience from their mobile phone, from their couch, to enter that information. And you're collecting the information. You're also redirecting them to more information. You're sending them to another site. Maybe that's a different part of your page. Maybe it's the event landing page that you're sending them to. So you're redirecting that person. And now, Zach, you should also be receiving a text message.
I was just going to say, so while you were saying that, and you mentioned the email and text aspect, so I actually got a text message on my phone that says, Zach, thanks for signing up for our Christmas flash mob. Here's a video of what to expect, and it links to this same video. Or I'm sure you could set it up to link to anything. You don't necessarily have to have it all go to the same place. But yeah, so I got that message as well on my phone right after I signed up for that. So that's pretty cool. So then I go, okay,
Absolutely.
great. So now they can actually, and that's great to see that the church can actually text me when stuff's happening as well. So
Yeah, and
since I
you
find out.
notice how quickly that happened. So
Mm-hmm.
the user is going to be the front end user is going to be pleased by that. If I'm submitting something to my church and signing up for an event, and I get an immediate text, I mean, I know that my submission was received. I now
Mm-hmm.
have the next bit of information I need while I'm still interested, because when I filled out the form, I was interested, so I'm still interested when getting information.
Yeah, wouldn't help to get
So
3 days later.
yeah, that's right. Three
Thanks for
days
signing up.
later, yeah. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and share, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's switch over and
And
see what you got.
awesome. So we're going to show a couple things here. I promised Zach I'm not going to be long. I could spend hours in this database showing people the functionality, because I really get jazzed up about technology and the way that we can use that to serve the church and to serve the Lord Jesus Christ and to serve people. There's just a lot of tools that are available to us. So I promise I'm not going to take up a terrible amount of time. I just want to highlight some things that we've been discussing today, such as promoting events, and then what to do once we have visitors, and how to really capitalize on that opportunity of showing them that we care and that we're pursuing them. So that first example you saw Zach fill out that form, I'm going to come into the database here, and I'm going to go to our groups. And so this database, this is a fully functional management system of your church. I mean, you're building forms, you're taking attendance, you're tracking contributions, you have your people, and you have the different groups or statuses for individuals. So you're collecting a lot of information in this system. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to scroll down to one specific group, and you guys can see my screen here.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we can see it.
Wonderful. All right, so I'm going to go down to a specific group here. Christmas Carol Flash Mob. So this is the event that Zach just signed up for. And when I click on this group, it's going to show me Zach Merritt. There we are. And it's got all of the information that we've collected from him. So there's different fields I can choose to display here. Address, or so him signing up through the form has added him to this group in our database. And when I go to that specific form, let me pull that up here so you can see how those responses are handled. Right, I have all those responses to the form listed here, and I can see what Zach put on that form. So not only do I have the responses to the form, the system has added him to my database with his contact information. So I'll go ahead and pull up Zach's profile here. So this is really nice because it's created him in the system. And that's not the the system. I'm in the system.
I'm in the system.
That is a Ant-Man joke, if anyone's seen that movie. So let me go ahead and find the right Zach Merritt. I have a couple Zach Merritts in here.
Just when you think.
There we go. Just when you think you were the only one.
Yeah.
And so here it's we've already collected Zach's information from the form. It's populated him in the database. We have his number, his email. He's not attended yet. We have the date this was created.
Oh, I'll be there.
And then we have what group that he came in through. So we have the group. It's already put him into the Christmas Carol Flash Mob group. So one thing I want to show is once we've collected information, so this is still in the promotion stage because we've created a form and Zach signed up for the event. And now we have his information so we can continue to communicate to him, to promote to him. So let's imagine for a moment that Zach was someone outside our church who stopped by our website and filled out the form to this event. Now we've collected enough information to continue our promotion with him. And let's say that the day of the event has come up and Zach attended the event and really enjoyed the event. And now we want to reach out to everyone who attended the event. And maybe Zach at the event stopped by the welcome station and filled out a connect card and said, I want to be contacted. I want to learn more about your church. So let's send Zach a communication here. What I'm going to go to do is the mass contact. And so using Elexio Community, we have email, text message, or even voice messaging. You can send a voice message to individuals. So I can choose that group of the Christmas Carol Flash Mob, and this is going to email or text everyone in that group. Or I can just send it to Zach. Or actually, you know what? I'll send it to myself. And that way I can show you what it's going to look like here. So I'm going to send a communication. Let me pull up my communication here. copy and paste that. So this is the text message I'm going to send, and we can pretend this is Zach or myself or whoever attended our recent event. And it's going to say, thanks for attending our recent event. We loved having you. If you'd like to learn more, please sign up for the Discover class. And so we're promoting our events, and then after the events, we're leading people through the assimilation process so they can find out more about our church. So I'm going to go ahead and send that text message communication, and that's going to show up on my phone here in a moment. But first, we're going to go to another area here. Oh, there it showed up right on my phone. So I just got a text message. Open my phone. My phone is not wanting to respond. Just one moment here while I get this set back up. Oh no, my screen's gone black. What can you do there? So what you would have seen here is a text message that was sent to me from the church, showing the message that I just sent here and the form that I could click on to sign up for the Discover class. So unfortunately, the phone reflector tool I'm using has gone black on me there, so we're not able to see that. But we'll keep moving on here. So the takeaway though really is that you're communicating after the events, and you're moving people along into your assimilation process. And because you have them in your system, you know that they're not a member yet, they're not attending. You have those details. So the next thing that you would do is, let's say that Zach or myself, we'll say Zach for this scenario, or we'll say myself, that I then attended the church. So I'm a first-time visitor, I attended this event, and now I want to attend the church and learn more. So what I'm gonna do is add myself to the first-time visitor group. So what I'm doing is I'm recording in the system that I am now a first-time visitor. The way that the church would have received this information is through maybe a connection card on Sunday morning. Maybe they filled out a card saying I'm new. Maybe they signed in at the check-in kiosk and they checked their children in, and you can set up the check-in kiosk to locate new people and put them into the first-time visitor group. So however they get in there, you're going to make a note of that here, that they're a first-time visitor.
And Kyle, real quick too, while you're doing that, I was just going to say as a note, like when we're saying check-in kiosks, really we're talking about a system where you could use something like Elexio Community to have a form on a tablet, something like an iPad or anything, even if you wanted to, on a stand that they can work with. So it doesn't necessarily mean they have to go out and buy this ATM-looking machine that like has all the digits and stuff on it they have to enter in. But it can really be something simple that you can use, technology that you already own to be able to work with.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point, Zach. So check-in is already included within the management system, and you can load check-in from any device. So I'll just go ahead and show that quickly. I'm going to launch this in kiosk mode, and I'm going to choose a station. So it could be the kids station, maybe it's an event station, a lot of different elements you can change here and customize. But I'm going to go ahead and launch this check-in station, and you can have a custom background. And this, as you're seeing, is ran from the browser. So this can be ran from any device, any tablets you already have. You don't need to buy hardware to use it, and it's giving you a fully functional check-in station where you can add new families, and people who are already members of your church can check their children in to Sunday school and check themselves into service. And you can also run this offline on an iPad. So this is built into the system, is a great resource of being able to check people in, and it's going to recognize when people are new. So it's going to allow you to check in people that attend. It's also going to allow you to identify people when they're new and check them in, and then enter them into your assimilation process. So for this next example, what I've done is I've marked myself as new by checking in and by adding myself to the first-time visitors group. Right? So what we have in this system is called workflows. And Zach, you had mentioned workflows earlier in today's presentation about automating a lot of our communications. Now, we're not automating our communications to be less personal. We're automating our communications to be more strategic and show people that we have systems in place to make sure that they are cared for and that we're responding immediately. So when someone attends your church and they can get a text message right away or an email right away, or someone calling them the next day saying, we know that you attended, and we want to thank you for attending and see how we can serve you. Those things go a long way, and technology can help us accomplish those things. So I'm going to show you here is a workflow for first-time visitors. And so this is automation in the software, and it's taking people that you've added for the first time, or maybe they've checked in for the first time at one of your kiosks, and it's triggering automated tasks. So this is someone who's checked in, or this is myself, would match this criteria now because I was just added to this group. I'm going to automatically then receive an email, and an assignment's going to go out. So I'm going to preview people that match. There's no one matching. That means it's already ran. So these workflows run every 15 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and check my email now. I should have an email that looks like this, welcoming me to the church automatically. And I do. I'm going to pull this into screen now. So here's that email. Let me download those pictures. So here's that same email from that workflow. You can see it was sent at 3:04 Eastern time today from the church saying, welcome to Awesome Church. We're so glad to have you here. You can click here to sign up for the discovery class. Here's a note from our pastor. And then when I click on this, it's going to take me to the discovery class form. And this is starting the whole process over again, right? Like, so we're collecting information. It's going to put them into that group, and then we can communicate with everyone who signed up for the discovery class. So it's really great event management. And it's also great follow-up, because when the purpose of our events is to show people the love of Christ. And when they attend our events, we want them to know they're pursued and they're wanted. And so we want to invite them to our church so that we can come around them. And when they attend, that's the time. That's the time to really take up that opportunity to say, we want to come around you. We want to send you communications. We want to let you know that you have found someone that you're going to be somewhere where you're going to be welcomed. And so we just saw that here from that workflow, that I received that email almost instantaneously from adding myself to that group. And then an assignment went out to one of our ministry leaders, Harry, to bring them a gift. And you can make these assignments match your ministry, but this assignment's gone out to bring them a gift. And I'm just going to showcase that here by opening Harry's email. And Harry Elexio, who serves at our ministry in this fictional scenario, he serves on our ministry, but he's not savvy with technology. He doesn't want to learn new technology. This system's great for him. He doesn't ever have to log in. It sent him an email with the instructions. Hey, Harry, you've been assigned an interaction from the church. Please call and thank this person for joining. It has Zach's contact information. It has Zach's email and phone number. And then Harry can either click here to fill out a summary, or he could just reply to the email. Hey, I visited Zach. He just kept speaking German, though. And now Harry replies to that email. He's completed that task that's been assigned to him. When I log back into the database and we go to Zach's profile, let me choose the right one this time. There we are. We're going to see here under interactions that interaction was assigned to Harry on behalf of Zach. And you can see that he completed that interaction. So just a very powerful tool. It's allowing you to follow up. It's allowing you to assign people to minister. So this is a great point about automation. People hear automation, they think it's so not personal. The automation that happened in this scenario is that Harry was immediately assigned a task to personally follow up with Zach and bring him a gift. And the speed at which he was assigned that was instantaneously. And so it's allowing you to personally serve people sooner when they attend your church. So for event follow-up, for visitor follow-up, having tools like this in place are really going to allow you to be more efficient and more effective and be quicker at showing the love of Christ to people that you're serving. I'll stop there, a little showcase of the solution. We obviously have longer presentations and there's a lot more we could show. So you're going to get some information from Zach's team where you can learn more about our software, and you can speak to me directly, and would love to talk to you about your church and how a solution like this could help you with event management and visitor follow-up.
Definitely. Thanks so much for that, Kyle. And thank you everyone for coming. I know we've gone a little bit over time, We were hoping to have some time to get to your questions, but we will be sure to check up on that and follow up with you guys as much as we can. So again, thank you guys so much for coming. If you have any further questions too, feel free to email webinars@sharefaith.com and we can do that. If you have any questions about Elexio, we definitely will provide information so you can reach out to Kyle or the Elexio team there so you can learn more about this if this is something that you feel like your church could really benefit from. And as Kyle says, the ultimate goal here is not that you guys are just buying a product, but ultimately it's about how you can best equip yourself to serve your people and to reach them for God's kingdom. So we want to leave you with that. We want to pray for you guys before you head out, and thank you guys so much for coming. Father God, we thank you for all that you do for us, for all that you've done for us, the gospel that has gone out. Lord, help us to carry that gospel in a way that is glorifying to you, that people would recognize it as that we are your followers, that we are your disciples, Lord, that we reflect the life that Jesus led. Lord, I just pray that you would use each of us here who are today's webinar to give us insight and wisdom on how we can best reach, engage, and ultimately welcome and integrate those who want to be part of the kingdom of God. So God, we ask that you would just lead us by your Spirit in that endeavor always, and ultimately, Lord, that all we do would be to that purpose. We thank you. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you again so much, Kyle, for helping come on here and co-host with me today. It was a lot of fun. Looking forward to the next time we can do something like this.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks for having me, Zach. I really appreciate being able to talk about these subjects with Sharefaith, and I love what you guys provide over there. Just the content that you have really helps churches and at all levels serve people better, and that's the goal. So really appreciate that. And then Tim for handling all the technology today, man. I'm really grateful for you.
Definitely. Thank you guys so much for your help. And thank you everyone for coming. We hope you guys have a great rest of your week. God bless you guys, and you have a great day.